In this video, we are going to make our level look a little more interesting to move around in. We'll talk about sprites, their settings, and a little bit more about prefabs. Back in our level 1, we have this dark void setup, but we would like our space to be a little more interesting to look at. To do that, we are going to use some sprites to build our environment. Under the art folder, we have an environment folder which has several folders all containing sprites we can use to make our level more interesting. The first thing we are going to drag in is some backgrounds from the background folder. I'm going to choose B, but you can pick whichever one you want. Then I'm just going to drag it into our scene. And what's going to happen is a new game object is going to be created with a sprite renderer that uses the sprite we dragged in. You might also notice that the background has covered up our player and our enemy, or it might only be hiding one, or even neither. This ambiguity is because all of our sprites so far have been on the same sorting layer in the same order and layer, which we can see if we look at the sprite render's additional settings dropdown. If we want to make sure that our background is in the background, we need to set up our sorting layers, which we can do from the top right layers drop down and select Edit Layers, then open the drop down for sorting layers. And then we can see that Unity starts us off with only one sorting layer, the default layer. To add more layers, all we need to do is hit the plus button and then name the new layer. Let's name it background. And because we want the background to render behind the default layer, let's reorder the layers by clicking and dragging them from the left side of the list using this double bar looking icon. And let's put the background layer above the default layer. The ordering goes by what you want behind other layers to come before those layers in the list. This can be confusing, but the way to think about this to alleviate that confusion is that the camera renders the layers in the order they appear in this list. So if the background is rendered first, then the next layer, default, will be rendered on top of it. So if we go back to our background and our scene view, let's put it on the background layer, and now we can see our player and enemy again. But our background doesn't completely cover everything our camera renders, as we can see in both the game view and scene view. One solution to this might be to scale up the background game object, so let's try that. If we click on our scale tool and scale it up, we can see that while we cover more of the camera space, we also get a little too close to the details in the image. So this isn't a great solution, but I wanted to show it to you to point out that your aesthetic is important, and you should be aware of how your game looks and is presented, just as you should be aware of how it plays. Let's scale this background back to 1, 1, and 1, and use the better solution for this case, which is to create more backgrounds. Because our background art assets were created to fit together with themselves seamlessly, you can see if we create another one of these by selecting it and hitting Ctrl D on Windows or Command D on Mac, or by right-clicking and selecting Duplicate, we can move this new background image to an edge of the previous. And we can see that they line up smoothly. And just to make sure that our background pieces are actually touching, we can use the vertex snapping hotkey, which is to hold V down and then drag one of the edges of the background, and we can make sure they are aligned with each other. And we still have a little bit more background to cover, so I'm going to go ahead and select both of these backgrounds and duplicate them. I'm going to move them a little, and then I'm going to hold V again to get that nice snapping. And I'm going to drag this edge to snap it to the left side and cover all of what our camera currently sees. Now if we hit play, we can fly around in our space. But of course if we move too far, we don't have the nice background anymore. So the last thing we are going to do for this video is limit how far the player can move by using colliders in the form of a wall of asteroids we've created for you. Under Prefabs, Environment and Hazards, Stationary, Wall of Asteroids. And we can drag this in and use it as a barrier to stop the player from moving beyond the space we want them to play in. So we are just going to drag a few of these in to make a box. So dragging these in or duplicating them in the scene, either method works. Then we can use the Move tool and the Transform component to position each wall the way we want. Once we've got these positioned, we can see that the scene hierarchy is getting cluttered. So what we want to do now is create an empty game object to store all these environment pieces in. So let's right-click in the scene hierarchy and select Create Empty. Let's rename it to Environment. And let's move all the environment game objects underneath it. Then for completion, let's create some more backgrounds and hold down the V key as we move them to get them to snap together so we can always have the space background regardless of where the player is in the scene. Now you might notice that the asteroids are also something that can be snapped to, so they are in the way, so let's temporarily turn those off. Let's select them in the hierarchy by selecting one, holding Shift, and clicking at the end of the other, or we can hold Control and click them individually. Then we can toggle them all off using the checkbox in the top left of the inspector window. Now we can reselect the backgrounds we want to move and finish filling all of this out. Again, by holding the V key to snap while we drag the edges to where we want them. Once we think we have enough, we can find the walls again and select those and turn them back on. If we hit play now, we can see that we have our environment set up with a clear space for the player to move around.